Thank you all for joining us on this very stressful Wednesday afternoon at 1 o'clock, where we're totally struggling with tech difficulties, but we're gonna live through it. So I'm Betty Wong, and I'm the co-founder of the Stage 2 Startups Founders Over 40 Unconference, and we want to thank you very much for joining us on day 3. So our moderator today will be Debra Albert, and she is the founder of BlankSlate Advisors. So Debra has the passion to combat ageism in the workforce, and her company helps people who are not tech savvy to be more competitive by reskilling these people to stay relevant in their current jobs, or upskilling them to rejoin the workforce after a career break, or preparing them to become entrepreneurs. So previously, she served in leadership roles in the market research, media, and advertising industries. And she's a great friend of mine who I roped into helping us. And she is the longest serving leader of Lean In, although that's not in her official bio, but that's what she also does. She spends a lot of time doing that. So, okay, Debra, please introduce my dear friend, Betty Ng, and then I will get off and try to find Marcelo.
Thank you, Betty. Actually, we have another technical difficulty because I think I heard Betty just say that you, Betty, were going to introduce yourself. So I thought that's what was supposed to happen.
Okay, well, hey, no problem, no problem. And I'll be very brief. I'll be very brief. So my name is Betty Ng. I am a builder of inclusive and high-performing culture, and I do that through 2 companies. I am the founder and CEO of Inspiring Diversity, and also the co-founder of another company called TaiQ. Inspiring Diversity really focuses on helping to empower authenticity and also build cultural competence. TaiQ is actually more focused on how do we embed inclusion into cultural DNA so that really authenticity can flourish. And so it's through those companies that I live by my purpose. And prior to co-founding TaiQ and founding Inspiring Diversity, I had over 2 decades of experience in corporate America, financial services, rose up the ranks to become a senior vice president, had worked at companies such as Arthur Andersen, American Express, Citigroup, and Moody's. And so during that time, I was that woman of color rising up the ranks to become an executive. And really, I did have my share of challenges as well as successes. And that is actually what ultimately propelled me to start my own businesses.
Wow, that's a lot. And it's interesting because the companies that you've worked for, my God, they are incredible brands. So it's interesting that you're part of this day's topic of brandpreneurs. But it's wonderful that you really picked your passion or found your passion, I should say, and we're able to pursue that. And that's such a huge part, I think, of being a successful entrepreneur. Because if you're not passionate about it, you probably won't be successful at it, or you won't have fun doing it anyway.
Yeah. And I do have to say that, I'm passionate about it. And I actually do a talk with a lot of the companies that you've seen on my website, the big brands, and it's a talk that's called From Pain to Purpose and Promise, and it's really about how do you leverage your identity, and oftentimes also the pain that you yourself have experienced, and how do you channel that pain into ultimately what your purpose is, and then based on that purpose, which actually becomes the mission of your companies or your company. That's how you wind up focusing on the promise, which is really the solutions that will ultimately address that pain that maybe not only you, but others experience.
Exactly. So I want to talk a lot about your business because it's really important, but I want to ask you kind of a personal question first. First of all, you run 2 companies, so that's amazing. How does your business life impact your personal life in terms of managing priorities, delegating, and just being the face of the business? I mean, I don't know that, if you walk down the street, people are stopping you for autographs necessarily, but into your life.
Yeah. So it's interesting you asked this question, because I ultimately go back to what is my purpose in life. And that is really to be a builder of inclusive and high performing culture, and also to be a present parent. I am the mother of 2 middle school kids. They're 11, almost going on 12, and 13. So really, at a very interesting time in their lives. And so definitely, I mean, there are only 24 hours in the day. And quite frankly, I do try to get my 8 hours of sleep. So then that pares it down to 16 hours a day. So there's really actually not a lot of time to run 2 companies and also to really raise a family. But ultimately, it is about how do you focus on what matters ultimately. And I always think back, is what I'm doing, like, because there are so many opportunities that get thrown at you, right? Potentially, you could do this, you could do that, but ultimately, I ask myself, is this in alignment? Is what I'm being asked to do, or this potential opportunity, in alignment with my purpose of either being a builder of inclusive and high performing culture, or being a present parent? And so, in fact, I also, as you can see in the back, I wrote a book with my mother. It's called Polling Power. My mom's name is Polling. And it's a book on how do you propel your authentic self and others to success while managing what matters. And Polling Power is really a framework. It's a decision evaluation and measurement tool that I myself use every day with every decision that I make to decide what am I going to focus on and what am I not going to focus on.
Okay, so I have to buy your book then, because that's great advice. I really need it. Okay.
Debra?
Yes.
Debra, can you hear me? Okay, so Marcelo is in the attendees, but for some reason, he is not being allowed to be elevated to, okay, now he's disappeared. All right, let's just keep talking. I don't know what, let's just punt. Let's just keep going, and I'll call him. Punt. Keep going. Oh, here he is.
There he
is. Marcelo! Welcome.
There you go.
Hi. So I'm going to let you jump in here and introduce yourself as Betty did.
Okay, well, I hate introducing myself.
Okay, Marcelo's a fabulous guy, really smart.
No, I am, from what I know, one of my few friends who actually studied advertising and marketing and kept at it. I've been part of the advertising world since at least 1974. I began as a copywriter. I launched the Renault 5TS in Spain, relaunched Iberia Airlines, switched to media, then slowly, but not that slowly actually, rose through the ranks, became executive VP, international media director for Food Building, one of the 10 largest ad agencies in the world, then became part of the Worldwide Media Council at McCann Erickson, then the #1 agency in the world. I have launched at least 15 Fortune 500 companies, or being part of the team. Wow. I have merged about 15 ad agencies in, I don't know, like 4 continents, maybe 12 countries, something like that. I have lived in 8 countries, speak 3 languages, and I am down and out an ad guy. That's what I am, an ad guy. I don't have a higher purpose. I am just a marketing guy.
That's fabulous, though. And you too worked for some really heavy duty, well-known brands. So let me ask you guys, I mean, you had some really big corporate experience. There might be a lot of people in our audience who may be thinking to start their own business, especially people who are a little bit older and dealing with ageism. I mean, let's face it, older people are getting sort of nudged out a little bit. So what from your corporate experiences gave you the skills or the confidence to say, I'm going to go on my own? How did you make that break from corporate world?
Mine was easy. If I can jump first, I was just fired.
Sure. That makes it easy.
Yeah, no, I didn't agree with the direction that Food Building was taking, because we were disintegrating the agency, and I believe in integration. So I basically said, either do this or I'm out. And my boss said, you realize that to fire you, we need a board resolution because you're part of the board. So a board member will be here on Monday to talk to you. So then I was fired. I went to work for some other ones. I saw what people were doing in the ad agencies. After merging 15 agencies, you sort of know how agencies are run. And so mine was like on the job training, I guess. At some point, I got sick and tired of all of the BS. And nobody was going to hire a guy at 50. Not going to happen. And so I set it up. And I have an ad agency and a research company, but that was it. The breaking moment was, I got fired.
Right. That's succinct. Betty, how about you?
Yeah, so it's interesting that Marcelo mentions his breaking point. When I was still in corporate America, I actually decided that I really wanted to pursue my passion, my purpose, which is to be that builder of inclusive and high-performing culture. Luckily for me, actually, my specific position within mergers and acquisitions was eliminated. There was an opportunity to look for internal positions, but then I said, well, you know what? If not now, then when? And I felt that it was really the right time because one, I had identified what my purpose, my passion was. And two, I felt that I was prepared, not only from a skill and experience perspective, but also from a network perspective, those relationships. So in terms of the experience, so I, over 2 decades of experience, like really, you're having worked in mergers and acquisitions globally, done deals in Europe, Asia, Latin America, Canada, and the US, and leading teams that were cross-functional, that really hit every aspect of every business because we were acquiring businesses, integrating them. So I, as the lead on these deals, had to have a good sense in terms of really everything across the business. So really, and also working with people of very diverse backgrounds and diverse perspectives. What does it mean to pull teams together to execute something? So I felt that, from an experiential and skill standpoint, that I was very well positioned. But more importantly, I felt that over the decades that I had built relationships and friendships really with people from all over, and a support base where I felt that no matter what happens, I will be okay. I may not be a subject matter expert in everything and probably not a lot of things. In fact, I was a technophobe before I left corporate America, and lo and behold, now I am considered a tech entrepreneur. But really, it's because of those relationships with people from all different backgrounds that could ultimately help me to achieve my vision, because I can't do it alone.
None of us can, and I think that's an important message. Go ahead, Marcelo.
No, so one of the things that I learned early on, and by the way, not being flippant, I have a network of, like, I counted them once, just contacts in my Outlook, over 10,000. And those are people that I actually know. And they're all over the place. 75% of my network is outside of the US. And I've been lucky to have, like, super interesting friends, people who managed to parlay a yacht in Hong Kong that they used as a house into an entire Bali hotel and all of that. So I've been lucky. I've been surrounded by really good people. I absorb knowledge. Actually, when I was 14, I was playing with direct current lasers by one of the guys who created them. So, and I met the guy who created the holograms, those kind of things. So I've been lucky. I just absorb knowledge. But one of the things that was really, really clear is the only way you survive later on, and I could see this from friends, because a lot of my friends just crashed and burned. And that is the essence of advertising. You rise really fast, and then, if you're not careful, you crash and burn.
Yeah.
And I knew I was not going to be a CEO of a major agency, mainly because I didn't like it at all. I hated dealing with the CFO. I just didn't like it. So I said, I'm not going to be that. I'm the perfect CMO, but I am the imperfect CEO. So one of the things I did early on, when I was actually 22, I decided 2 things. One of them is, if I'm gonna die poor, I might as well live richly. So I decided to accept every adventure in the world. Then the other one is, I wanted not to die poor. So I started investing when I was 24. I bought my first condominium in Coral Gables at 24. And I just decided I'm going to accumulate money for real, like tons of money. And one of the things that you do that, and that is the number one thing that has helped me later on in life, never mind, like other stuff, is you provide value. The only way that you accumulate money, you provide value. Most of actually, for the first years, not so many, for the last 6 years of Food Building, all of my bonuses were mid six figures, all of them. And I didn't spend anything. All of my friends were driving Porsches. I was only driving a BMW.
So I think the lesson, if I may say, the lesson here is
money.
If you're listening to Ashton in her talk just before this panel, I think she said something like her business plan was simply don't spend more money than you have. So I think you're sort of concurring with that, right?
Oh yeah, and that was the number one thing that has helped me a lot in having two businesses. I don't need money. I have more than enough money. I actually managed to live interestingly, which is great. But I'm not going to dive more.
Marcelo, can I stop you for just a second? Because I'm going to guess that most of the people who are here in the audience probably haven't achieved your level of success with their own business yet. So can we talk about some things that you did in order to, or your successes in becoming an entrepreneur? Because I think that's where these people are.
Provide value. That is the number one thing. Complete, and you know what? It is not your value. It doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter what you want. You have a client. The client, let's just take, I don't know, the Closet Factory, one of my clients right now at the agency. To him, value is people calling and making appointments. That's value. That's what he does. I have to forget about myself. I'm not going to talk about brand equity and all sorts of other stuff. I'm going to talk about what does Sal consider to be value. That. When I was in corporate, it was the same thing. What does a CEO consider to be value? The CEO would like really well-functioning, very profitable media departments in every country. And I built like 50 of those in 50 countries. But what do the people want in those departments? The employees, they want to see advance and they want to see a future for them. So 50% of my time was providing a future for them. Sitting down with a lot of people and saying,
can I let Betty answer that? Because we're actually getting close to the end of time.
Oh, just one more point, I will like 5 seconds. And the other 50% is talking to clients and asking them, what do you consider to be value, and giving it to them.
Yeah, customer.
I have to agree with Marcelo in terms of the value piece. And oftentimes, just going back to what I said earlier, it's about also identifying a pain point, right? Addressing that pain point with a real solution, right? And that promise that we talked about. But in terms of the solution, right? Yeah, it really has to be something that's impactful. And it's also something that can be easily adopted. Yes. Because sometimes you can come up with a solution that is just so cumbersome that there's no way it's going to be adopted. And so it's really about coming up with a solution that is simple, right? Maybe
sorry, we're running out of time.
The integration side, right? But maybe, complex in terms of the back end, right? In terms of the whatever the analytics or et cetera, which differentiates your product, that makes it unique and hard to replicate, right?
I think that's a really good point to kind of stress to this audience, that on the surface of your product, you really need to make sure that it's a good solution for your target market, and that they can go through whatever change, whether it's installing a software or going to some experience or whatever, that they can actually do it. I have a couple more very quick questions, but I have to tell you, please answer briefly, because I think the audience probably wants to know what mistakes you've made and probably what you would not do again. If you were starting,
I would not have any partners, for one. I would do it on my own. I would seek more relationship with clients too, and I would talk to clients even more. The rest, you know what, simple, complex, whatever, the client will let you know. The main thing is I would probably talk to even more clients and I would be more aggressive on new business. I really would. And no partner.
And Betty?
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned the point about partners. So inspiring diversity, I'm a solopreneur. That's great. TyQ actually started off with 3 co-founders, with including myself. Now we're down to 2. And I think the mistake related to that was the one partner who has left. We didn't recognize early enough that there wasn't an alignment of values. Right. And so it's very important that, it's not just about shared passion and shared vision. It's about, shared values as well, and commitment to the business.
That makes sense.
So, yeah.
Okay. So we are basically out of time. I want to thank you both for coming on. You're both, and I've had conversations with you. You're both really interesting people. So I urge everybody to seek them out. Although if there's a lot of people, then that might be a little much for you guys, but you both have so much to offer. And I really appreciate you talking to this audience, because this is such an important issue. There's too many people who are needing to find their purpose and start businesses and really reinvent themselves for the second half of their life. And that's what Stage 2 Startups is all about. I'm proud to be a friend of the company. And with that, I want to tell you that the next panel is starting in 1 minute. And so I put the link to the next panel in the chat, hopefully for everyone, yes. And so again, thank you guys. Thank you, Betty and Emily. And thank you.
Deborah, can I just say one last thing?
Sure.
Can I just say one last thing?
Oh, absolutely.
And I don't know if Frank can post the link in the chat, but one thing that I found to be very critical is ensuring that you have diverse and inclusive relationships. And so being inclusive in everything that you do and making sure that your business is built with not only your perspective, but others too. And so anyhow, if Frank could share the link, in fact, TyQ has a free assessment that you can access that helps you to learn more about your own inclusive behaviors, how you think, act, and interact along those behavioral dimensions. And then it provides recommendations as well. So
the link is there. The link is there. Actually, I'll just say one more thing too. You both are saying the same thing about diversity, because Marcelo, you're talking about, I would talk to even more clients. Well, what does that do? It gives you a more wide and diverse set of opinions and thoughts that then you can build your product on and know that you are pinpointing pain, and the solution, will come forth. Okay.
I have been diverse since I was like 14.
I think you were probably, it depends on where you are, Marcelo, because if you are I know you're in Miami, so by American standards, you're already diverse.
Yeah, but I didn't grow up in Miami. I grew up in Madrid, but I went to the international, to the American school. We spoke 16 first languages in my senior class.
That's amazing. That is amazing. I am a big proponent of anything that's diverse. So I am with you guys all the way.
Good.
Anyway, mucho gusto.
Thank you.
And thank you all for joining in. And I will leave you to go to the next panel. Bye all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.